Hello, hello. Testing. Howdy. I'm back. My singles of viewers have dearly missed me. How's everyone? I'm using a different mic. Sphincter. Thanks, Carlos. I'm using a different headset because my other mic was a little messed up. I also tweaked the background to be a little bit more interesting. Alright, let's get this music out of here. Alright. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. You know what? Let's get some banging music up. How's that? Last week I was in Seattle, so I was not available to do our typical stream, but I'm back. Alright, let's get this cranking. I watched a lot of movies since last time. Last time, it's him. What's up, dude? Last time I left off on Malignant. You know what? I'm gonna bring on the speech chat. I'm gonna bring the speech chat on, and we'll see if you guys abuse this ability. Okay? We'll see if you guys abuse this.
Test.
God, it's so loud. Watched a lot of movies on vacation, and some more since then. So let's just dive into it. Okay, so last night I watched Old, which is the newest M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'm gonna save that for last because I think that's what people care about the most, honestly. So you're gonna have to stick around if you want to know what I thought about that one. All right. Okay. Let's turn this down a little bit more. Bam, bam. Oh, it's too low. Okay. So after Malignant, I watched a movie called Dragged Across Concrete. Now, you guys may have remembered I talked about this movie Brawl in Cell Block 99, which I still want Jimmy to watch. I hope he's actually going to. But, yeah, basically, the follow-up movie to that, 1 year later, was Dragged Across Concrete, which is a movie starring Vince Vaughn and
How the fuck are you gonna give Dead Silence a 5/10?
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson, they are like the main reason to watch this movie. This director is really weird. I've talked about him before, so I won't go too into depth with him, but Bone Tomahawk is the one he's probably most known for. It's kind of a Western movie. This is kind of like a prison movie, and this is like a crime movie where they it's about two cops that end up kind of getting involved in a crime to make some money. It was pretty good. It's definitely the best. It's a way better script than Brawl in Cell Block 99. The script in this movie is probably like the weakest part of it, whereas in this film, it's actually written pretty well, and the first half of it is like really, really good. I watched this on the plane ride to my destination, to my vacation last week, and it was a great plane movie, but the second half kind of falls off. I feel like once you really get to like the main climax of the film, it kind of falls apart. It doesn't, I don't know, like a movie like this needs a really, really good climax, and I think that's what his other two films do really well. They both of these movies have like this really explosive, awesome ending, whereas this movie kind of didn't. Yeah, it just kind of falls flat at the end. But that being said, it's written and directed really, really well, and the acting is really good. I just wish it kind of ended better. And it's a longer movie too. It's like over 2.5 hours, I want to say. So I only gave it the 7. It's close to an 8, but like I said, the ending just wasn't there for me. And for a long movie, you kind of need to have a dope ending, right? Um, so yeah, I'd still recommend watching it. I think I liked Brawl and Cell Block more, and you know what? I might have even bumped it up to the 8 out of 10. Yeah, so I give this movie the 8 out of 10. After watching Dragged Across Concrete, I had to kind of adjust things. So I bumped this up to the 8, dropped this down to a 7. Um, Both good. I would recommend checking them out, but yeah, bit of a mixed bag there. Still has some great violence at the end. Someone gets disemboweled at one point, and it's like Saw. That this director's known for having like Saw level gore towards the end of his films. The rest of the movie, like the whole movie, is just a normal movie, and then at the end of it, it gets like really, really messed up. That's kind of his thing. So if you're into that, check out Dragged Across Concrete. All right. After that, a banger, Scream. Now, just so you know, next month, and I think this is the first time I'm announcing this, next month for the month of October, Natalie and I will be watching a different scary movie every single day for the entire month of October. We're going to be running the gambit. I'm probably going to try to pump out some sort of podcast for this, like an actual podcast. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure how much I want to get into Scream. I love this movie. I saw it. I really watched it for the first time um,
Yo,
in
same.
May. Yo, same. You're doing.
I'm doing a spooky movie gauntlet too.
Yeah, you know what, Jimmy? If you want to try to sync up some of our films, we can try to do that. I have a list right now. Natalie and I have a list, but it's in no particular order, obviously. So maybe we could try to sync up a couple of these films, you know, or maybe if we link up, maybe on Columbus Day weekend we could link up and watch one of these together. Maybe at your place. That would be cool. Um, Anyway, Scream I saw for the first time May 20th. I had already seen, previous to this date, I had already seen the ending of the film and other scenes of the film. I knew what it was about and the idea, um, but I had never really watched it front to back until May. And then I rewatched it, on the 19th while I was in Seattle. And I mean, I love this movie.
I love Ocean's 11. Scream is a classic also.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Ocean soon. A great movie as well. But yeah, Scream. I hadn't watched it until recently. I rewatched it in Seattle, and
AYY
it's just
Nathaniel is here.
it's so good. Yeah, welcome, Nathaniel. Um, it's probably the best slasher movie if you're into um, like comedic slash satirical slashers, right? This movie is a movie that you can't take too seriously. You have to be willing to laugh at it because it's trying to make you laugh. And I think if you can buy into the satirical elements of it and appreciate what it's doing for the genre, it elevates it to that next level because it is just a teen slasher movie, right? But the writing is really good, the acting is pretty good, the ending is fantastic. The third act is like absolutely superb, and it's just iconic. I mean, uh, in the movie Scream in the universe, there's this plot line that the mask, the Ghostface mask, that's so iconic now. In the movie universe, that's a mask that they just like picked up at like a gas station, right? And that's what made it so hard for them to track them down. And some people may not even realize that like Scream did invent this mask. It is a unique character that they did create. Um, and I think that kind of meta aspect of like now in the real world, the Ghostface mask is everywhere. Like I almost wonder if that was like a intentional marketing idea that they did, right? Where maybe they pumped this thing out to have that same, mirror the film. Anyway, the movie's
Gas
awesome.
station mask. Gas station mask.
Gas station mask, yeah. Um, it's directed by Wes Craven, who also did all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. He's actually a horror icon. Rest in peace. They're putting out another Scream next year, I think, with all of the same cast, which is going to be awesome. Well, maybe it might be garbage like the early 2000s one. But that's the thing too with Scream. There's three sequels to Scream. All of them are bad. Really, the first one is the only one worth watching. But this movie's nearly perfect. It's hilarious. It's scary at times. It's got a good plotline that keeps you guessing. And Matthew Lillard is just like incredible. And it's a good whodunit. You know, the whole time you're kind of guessing who the bad guy is, and the ending is a very satisfying payoff to that. And when you know the ending and you rewatch the movie, knowing
I
what
went
the
as
ending is, it
Ghostface
makes
for
it better.
Halloween when I was like 8, long before I saw any of the movies.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, you know, growing up for me, Ghostface is just like you see him everywhere. Like he's so iconic and recognizable. Um, Natalie just came in my room and she's doing the final scene of uh, I don't know. If you've seen the end of the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Great performances in this. I highly recommend seeing Scream. Go into it. You know, like this is a movie you want to watch when you're looking for like a light slasher. You know what I mean? Something entertaining but not too serious. Maybe have a few drinks and have some friends over. You're gonna have a blast. I watched this. I got to show this movie to one of my best friends who had never seen it before. He knew nothing about it. He didn't know the ending. He literally didn't know anything besides, you know, the name. And that was really really cool, and it was interesting watching him watch the movie, and like he had no idea, he didn't know who the killer was until the very end. He had no idea. So very entertaining, highly recommend. The Thing. This movie I actually bumped down from a 9 to an 8 after I rewatched it. Again, this is a movie that I hadn't seen until January. I had never seen this movie until January 6th, and another classic. Um, it's one of the perfect horror movies, and it's one of the. I typically don't love movies from the 80s. Even movies from the 90s can be a little rough, but movies from the 80s and the 70s I rarely enjoy because of pacing issues. And this movie does suffer from those same pacing issues. It's a slow movie, it takes a while to get going. The first act, especially, is like really slow. Um, if this movie was made today, it would be much faster. Um, but besides that, even rewatching this movie for the second time, the horror elements still gave me chills. There are moments in this movie that, because the whole movie uses practical effects, there's no CGI, everything looks horrifying still. And it's a body horror film. It was directed, I want to say, by John Carpenter. Yeah, who also did Halloween and They Live. He did a bunch of stuff actually, but it's a body horror film, which means there are like really grotesque imagery, some weird shape shifting stuff happening, and Kurt Russell is just like absolutely incredible. The soundtrack is incredible, the writing is good, the editing is great, and I don't know. It's just there are scenes in this movie where something really disgusting is happening on screen with like really creepy music, and it sends chills throughout my body. And I think to say that about a movie that's this old, you know, this movie's going on 40 years old, I think that's a testament to how well it was made. Like I said, it is a little dated um, with pacing and with character dynamics, but I think if you kind of put on your forgiveness goggles and you kind of watch this movie with, you know, knowing how old it is and what it was doing for its time, you might enjoy it a little bit more. But I do think that this movie will be enjoyable to just about anyone. Just be prepared for a slow first act. Um, and man, who doesn't love Kurt Russell, right? I mean, look at this guy. It's such a recognizable voice. As soon as Kurt Russell starts talking, you know exactly who it is. Awesome movie. All right. Vibe check. How's everyone in the chat doing? The Wii music is doing well. Okay. Moving on to Ocean's 11. This is one of my favorite movies, and I realized how much I adore this movie on February 27th.
Vibin.
Jimmy's vibin'. Dude, the last time I watched this movie was at Jimmy's
Kurt
house.
Russell is iconic.
Kurt Russell's incredible. He's a god. All right. If I was gay, you know, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying. Last time I watched Ocean's 11, I was with Jimmy. I was at his place. And I've seen this movie a billion times, but the last time I watched it, it made me realize it might be the perfect movie. It's definitely the best heist movie. I can't think of a better one. It's obviously got cheesy elements to it, but overall, the writing is so funny in this movie. It's consistently funny, and every time I rewatch it, I think it's even funnier. There's so many little one-liners that characters throw out that that whole. I feel like this movie almost invented the cliche of a heist movie. You know what I mean? With the snappy music and the characters that are constantly cracking jokes, and there's just a real chemistry between the characters, especially the main crew, where you actually believe they're friends, you actually believe they have experience, and the movie never takes itself too seriously. It's got a great villain, it's got a great cast, it's got funny writing, it's a casino heist. Everyone loves a casino. And I don't know. I have
Really, Jiro's a better heist movie than Army of the Dead.
I haven't seen Army of the Dead, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is probably better. Probably better than anything Zack Snyder has ever made, actually. But yeah, I mean, when I think of Ocean's 11, I think of reasons that I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 instead of reasons why I would. You know what I mean? Like, there are very few things. This is one of those movies that are so great that I find myself subtracting points instead of adding points. And it's just awesome. It's a great movie. I don't know. I watched this movie. None of my friends had seen this movie. I was shocked. I was in Seattle. I was with two of my buddies and Natalie. Natalie had seen it though. She likes this movie. But my other two buddies that were there, they had never seen Ocean's 11. They didn't know what it was. I was dumbfounded. I mean, I guess it's a 20-year-old movie, but I mean, like, it's just stacked. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Bernie Mac, Don Cheadle. It's Casey Affleck. It's got everyone. I don't know. This movie.
It's a joke. Army of the Dead is trash. Throwaway joke.
Oh, I know you were joking. This movie gets better every time I watch it. It ages like a fine wine. I pick up on little one-liners every time. It's got the best elements of comedy, action, heist. It's got it all. I haven't seen Ocean's 12 or Ocean's 13. I've heard that 12 is kind of bad and that 13 is good. I love this movie so much that I feel like I really need to just watch the sequels. It's incredible. I don't know what else to say. Go watch Ocean's 11 if you haven't seen it. What the hell are you doing? Time for the good stuff. Unfriended. This movie might have invented it invented a genre, or at least popularized it, of recording a whole movie off of a laptop screen, right? This whole movie takes place on a computer screen. It's like imagine if you screen recorded a Zoom call. That's what this movie is. The whole movie is this. It's literally just people talking on Zoom. That's the whole movie, okay? And it's literally a screen capture of a computer screen. When this movie came out, I think this movie made $61 million profit. It took $1 million to make, and it made $62 million in the box office. Every teenager in the world talked about this movie. Every middle schooler in the world talked about this movie. It's a garbage movie, but because of the formatting of it, and because they use Skype, they use Facebook, they use real websites that kids use, it was massively successful. Nothing happens in the entire movie. Nothing. Every time someone dies, it's extremely boring. The acting is garbage. The writing is garbage. It's literally just a movie based on the premise. A girl was bullied to death, and she starts haunting her friends on Skype. That's the movie. And I just
Zoom, the movie.
okay. It's funny that you say that. There actually is a movie that's basically called Zoom the movie. It's called Host. It came out during COVID, and it actually is. It's that. It's a movie that takes place on a Zoom call during um, during the quarantine, and that's part of the movie. That like they're all stuck inside because of quarantine, and they're zooming each other, and they do a séance. And the whole movie is actually the length of a free Zoom session, which I believe is 45 minutes. Um, a pretty bad movie, but honestly better than Unfriended. In Host, at least the kills are interesting and things happen, and there's not just people repeating themselves over and over again. This is a 5 out of 10 movie. This is a movie that is just average. It's not good, it's not terrible, it's just an average whatever movie, and it's really short. Okay? This is what these movies should be. Unfriended is a
Is it
movie.
good?
No, I mean, it's whatever, right? It's an average film. Unfriended, there seems to be a really big delay with the stream, so I apologize. Um, Unfriended is just garbage. It's just boring. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The worst thing that a bad horror movie can do is be boring. Be more interesting. Be more memorable. When this movie started, I knew I had seen it, and I couldn't remember a single thing about it, alright? It's so dry. There's like an hour out of this hour and a half movie where just nothing happens. And the premise only takes you so far. So, pretty garbage, wouldn't recommend it. That being said, the sequel, which doesn't feature any of the same characters, so you don't have to see the first one to watch the sequel. Unfriended Dark Web is better. This movie I unironically gave a 6 out of 10. It's still bad, but it's entertaining. It's like funny bad, and the kills are good. The kills are actually interesting. The acting is a little bit better. The story is a little bit better, but really, it's just a more serviceable version. This is a movie I will be watching next month with Natalie as part of our Spooky October gauntlet. This one I will be watching. So, if you're gonna watch any of these movies, check out Dark Web. I think it's the better version. One of the few times where the sequel's better than the original, right? You gotta have good kills. If you're gonna have a shitty, boring movie about teenagers getting killed on Skype, make the kills interesting. Don't make them get ripped off screen or fall over, and there's a shaky camera and they're having a seizure and that's it. Like, get interesting with it. Okay? Use the medium for the kills. That's what the sequel does. Without spoiling anything, in the sequel, the way people die is actually related to the fact that they're all like on a Skype call. They actually use elements of the internet incorporated into the deaths. It's not just people dying while they're on a camera, right? So there you go. On the flight home from Seattle, I watched the Meyerowirtz Stories. Can't say that word, it's really hard. Stacked cast. You've got Adam Sandler. You got Adam Sandler. You got Ben Stiller. You got Dustin Hoffman. You got Emma Thompson. You got Adam Driver for one scene. You got Sigourney Weaver for one scene. He's really not in it. Adam Driver's really not in it either. But I only really watched this movie because it was directed by Noah Baumbach, who did Marriage Story, and I really, really, really liked Marriage Story. I thought it was a very realistic film, and he's known for making realistic films. It was written by him as well, and he has this way of writing dialogue that overlaps and feels like a real conversation. And this movie I only gave a 7 out of 10, but It's definitely worth watching. It's kind of a movie you'd watch with your parents. You know, you'd catch it on cable, and it's entertaining and it'll hold your attention, but it's not like gripping in any way, because it is kind of just a slice of life movie. It's really Noah Baumbach just built a family with conflicting dynamics, and he just wrote some scenes for them to interact with each other. And there's not a really strong driving force. There's no strong conflicts and resolutions. It's kind of just writing really good characters and watching them interact with each other. It's acted perfectly. The writing is super realistic, and um, because of that, and because the topic of the film is about an aging father, it's got some really tragic, relatable elements. And I could see myself watching this movie in 20 years and crying about it, because it really is an interesting look into difficult family dynamics and how that evolves when you get older, and how estranged siblings and parents end up, reconnecting over dramatic events that happen that force them back together. And yeah, I don't know. It was a good plane movie, It's the perfect plane movie. A 7 out of 10 kept my interest the whole time, but it's not like incredible. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone to just go race out and see this, but if what I'm describing interests you and you like to watch good performances, it's not too heavy, it's not too funny. It really is just a middle of the road slice of life film executed very well. That's all it is. Cut and dry. Um, I think Marriage Story, which he did last year, is basically a perfect movie. And it deals with family dynamics in a more dramatic way. So if you want to see something a bit more dramatic in this genre, just go watch Marriage Story. It's fantastic. It's about a divorce. I'll leave it at that, I guess. I mean, I don't. Has anyone here seen either of these films? Has anyone seen Marriage Story or Meyerowirtz Stories? I just realized they're both story. I'll give you a second. We lost a viewer. It was either Nathaniel or Carlos. Either way. Man, the delay on this chat is really bad. I think I must have clicked the wrong setting when I went live. No. Carlos is here. It looks like Nathaniel dipped. Sorry.
No.
No.
Cried so hard at Marriage Story.
Dude, thank you. Well, I'm glad thank you. Marriage Story is absolutely tragic, especially if you're a family of divorce. It's really real. Dude, Natalie bawled at Marriage Story. She had to skip through it and turn it off because it was really hitting something deep within her. So go watch Marriage Story if you want. It's on Netflix. It was actually made for Netflix, 2019. Go watch that. Highly recommend that. I need to rewatch it. Dead Silence. All right, Carlos, I'll do you a favor. Bump it up to the 6, okay? Jimmy, you're gonna have to go watch this movie, because guess what? It's James Wan. This movie was the follow-up to Saw. So he did Saw, then he did Dead Silence. If you are a fan of Saw, you're gonna see the influences really, really strong in Dead Silence.
Rare good Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
The soundtrack in Dead Silence is nearly identical to Saw, and it has an ending that is straight out of Saw. You know how in Saw, at the end of every movie, there's like this dramatic twist where like you realize something was
Dead
happening the whole
Silence is
time.
Saw with puppets. Haven't seen it, but yo, if it's one, then I'm seeing it ASAP.
It is kind of Saw with puppets. Yeah, Jimmy, I won't spoil anything, as usual, but Saw does this thing at the end of their films where there's a twist, and then they show scenes of how that twist was impacting the movie throughout, right? Where like stuff was happening behind the scenes. It kind of like gives you a really fast montage of everything in the movie that was affected by the twist, and then it shows intercut with that montage the main character shaking their head and screaming in anguish as they realize what was happening the whole time, right? They do it at the end of every Saw film, and they do it at the end of this movie.
I think it's on Netflix.
I don't think it is on Netflix. And the soundtrack is straight out of Saw as well. This whole movie is very blue, whereas Saw is very green. Let me check. I don't think it is actually on anything. Yeah, no, it's not streaming on anything. You have to rent it if you want to watch it. But it was a good movie. It was if you like James Wan, you'll like it, I think. The first act is kind of weird because it's good and bad. I think the only reason this movie does work is because the movie kind of starts immediately and then just like shoves you into the plot line, and that's usually a good thing, so you don't end up like waiting around and like meandering on shitty dialogue. But there's like the other side of that coin where they wait till the end of the movie to tell you so much of what's happening that the whole movie you're kind of just confused in terms of like the motives. Like the motives and the background to these characters are really unclear, and because of that you end up not caring about any of the characters.
Great story, TBH.
This story is not that good. You're tweaking. I think you, for whatever reason, you like this movie more than I think you should. I'd recommend rewatching it. The story's not that good. The twist is okay.
Unique story.
The story's kind of unique, but you don't really learn anything about the characters until the third act, so you don't end up caring about them the whole time. And the motives are questionable. The story's kind of ham-fisted, honestly. Like the actual... I'm trying not to spoil anything, so I'm tiptoeing. The story surrounding the dolls feels ham-fisted but well written enough, if that makes sense. Like the premise is good. I just don't necessarily think it was executed super well from a writing standpoint and from a character standpoint. But that being said, the only reason this movie is a 6 out of 10 is because I think it has a pretty good ending. It's got decent characters, decent acting. It's got that cop drama element that so many James Wan films have. If you like James Wan, it's a must-watch because it's a unique new IP for him. It's not Insidious or Saw, but it's got so much of a footprint from Saw. You can tell that it's his Saw follow-up, right? And because of that, I think it's really fascinating and worth a watch. You'll be entertained the whole time, right? I've said it before, I'll say it again. The worst thing a bad horror movie can do is be boring. This movie's not boring. It's entertaining at the very least, and I'm a sucker for the Saw franchise, which is why I'll give it a soft 6. Okay? Here. Soft 6. Okay? Just because I'm a sucker. So there you go. Okay? I'll even here, let me edit it. Soft 6. There we go. Okay? Good, not great. Barely above average. Barely above average. Okay? It's more competent than Malignant, so... Okay. Last film. Sorry I keep clapping. I know that's probably really loud. Last film, okay? I watched this movie last night. Let me mute. Sorry, I got Messenger binging. I watched
He'll
Old.
give you a soft 6.
My penis. You know what I'm talking about? M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. Okay? Known for his classic twists. Okay? Let me sort by release date. The Sixth Sense put him on the map. Everyone loved it. Great twist at the end. Everyone loved The Sixth Sense. Unbreakable, another good movie. It's a good one. Signs, another good movie. Okay, pretty strong opening. Okay. The Village, pretty good. You know, The Village is, not bad, not great. Twist is whatever. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Okay, entertaining. Here's the thing about M. Night movies. You're gonna see a theme here, right? His movies are bad, but they're always entertaining. Okay? You're never gonna regret watching an M. Night film. Okay? Never seen this. Never seen this. The Last Airbender. Everyone hated this movie. Okay? Never seen it, personally. The most common rating, 50% of people on Letterboxd gave this movie a 1 out of 10. Okay?
I love The Village. Are you joking?
I know, Natalie, you love The Village, but I didn't love it, okay? It's pretty good. It's got good actors in it. It's got a pretty good story. It's got pretty good writing. It's got pretty good dialogue. It's got a pretty good setting. It's got a pretty good twist, okay? It's a pretty good movie. I might consider bumping up to a 7, maybe, okay? Maybe. Never saw After Earth. The Visit, okay? The Visit is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, okay? But I love it, okay? I love this movie is good, is so bad that it's good. It's funny bad, okay? The twist is stupid. The whole movie is, the child acting is terrible, okay? There's cringy raps from kids, okay? All of the scares are garbage. The main character's name is Tyler, alright? You seeing a theme here? No, I'm just kidding, but his name is Tyler. It's a bad movie. It's terrible. It's one of my favorite movies to watch with friends because it's so bad. I actually had it at a 1 out of 10 for the longest time until I watched Rings, which I ended up bumping this up to a 2 out of 10 so that Rings could be at the 1 out of 10.
Could you get inside the oven to clean it? Pineapple upside down cake.
Pineapple upside down cake. If I could play that clip without getting copyright strike, I would. This movie's hilarious. Honestly, I might bump it up just because it's funny. But this was really the movie that solidified M. Night as like a bad movie maker. People really didn't like after like Trash. Like I've never even heard of The Happening, right? The Happening has pretty mixed reviews, so whatever, okay? Universally hated The Last Airbender. Everyone hated this movie because the source material was so great that people were like, how did you mess it up this bad? Like if it was a movie not called The Last Airbender, it probably would have been received better, okay? After Earth, never heard of it. And terrible reviews, okay? The Visit, bad movie. Never even heard of this. Looks like it's a 5-minute short. It's not even a movie. Split, I thought was pretty good. I actually gave Split an 8 out of 10, and it might be a 7. I haven't seen it since I
think you can
first
play
watched
short
it.
clips without copyright issues.
I don't want to risk it. Not worth the risk. Because I've tried to watch stuff on stream before.
Happening.
Nothing happens in The Happening. The non-happening. I really like this movie. I mean, I'd be down to watch it. Why not, right? Anyway, James McAvoy has like the best acting ever in this movie.
Give Split a 10, coward.
And you've got Anna Taylor-Joy. Welcome, Ronnie. I would like to rewatch Split just because I haven't seen it in so long. But this was this movie was an upswing for him, you know? After so many movies, like, I never saw Lady in the Water. I think it got okay reviews, actually. Yeah, so The Happening, Airbender, After Earth, and The Visit, this was a rough stretch for him, right? These four movies from 2008 until um, 2016, he had like a good like 8 or 9 years of just bad movies, okay, which is a pretty long stretch. And then Split came out, and people were like, "This is actually pretty good." And then Glass was like, everyone hated Glass. I mean, oh, actually, 6 out of 10.
The
Haven't seen it.
VVITCH slaps.
The Witch slaps. I don't know why you're talking about The Witch. He didn't do The Witch, but yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Anyway, all of this leads up to Old. Okay, just left theaters recently. Pretty mixed reviews. The most popular rating is a 6 out of 10, which is what I also gave it. If you've seen one commercial for this movie, you pretty much know the whole premise, the whole film, basically. And it's a real mixed bag, man. The acting is terrible.
Glass was so goofy.
I never saw Glass. I would like to see it, actually, because Unbreakable was really good and Split was really good. So I would like to see Glass, but I've heard it's pretty bad. But I'd like to check it out. Anyway, yeah, Old. The acting is bad. Really bad. Some characters in this movie are like straight out of acting school, like that bad. The writing is pretty good, which is I think the only reason why. And I was watching this movie and it made me realize like M. Night can make pretty good. He's pretty good at writing a script, right? And writing like this movie doesn't really have a twist, right? M. Night is known for making movies with a really big twist at the end. This movie doesn't really have a twist. You kind of know what's coming, and you know the ending for the most part. There's like one little thing that they add to the end of the movie, but it's not a twist, right? In my eyes, a twist is something that recontextualizes the whole film. Whereas this movie, you pretty much know what's happening like halfway through, and at the end of the movie, they kind of just explain a little bit more about why it's happening. That being said, M. Night's really good at writing a script. He, even if the acting isn't awesome, the characters are serviceable. There's good moments, right? The reason that I gave this movie a higher review than I think other people might have is, for whatever reason, there are moments in this movie that touch on how depressing it is to get older, right? The premise of the movie is that these families end up on a beach where they start rapidly aging, like really fast. And there are some interesting moments in this film that kind of touch on how tragic it is to age, and how you still feel young when you're older. And there's interesting themes that are explored a little bit. And there are moments in this movie that were actually heartfelt and tugged at some heartstrings for me.
I guess I'm watching The Village tonight.
You should check out The Village. It's a good one. That one's got a pretty good twist at the end. But yeah, Old was good. And like I said, I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm about to hit my quarter life crisis. I'm 24. I'll be 25 next year, and I'm starting to think more and more about how I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not a teenager anymore. And I'm starting to think about the years that are ahead and how quickly those years are approaching, and the difficulties that I'm going to experience, right, as I get older. And this movie touched on those themes. It's a 6 out of 10 movie. It's not great. It's barely a 6 out of 10. But the direction is unique. At times, the cinematography is questionable, but it's unique. It's got an M. Night stamp on it, and I appreciate that he puts his own style into it. The characters are serviceable. The writing is serviceable. The premise is good. And it feels like a pretty good student film with a really high budget. And if you like M Night's films, I'd check it out. I would. Most of the people that I'm friends with gave this movie no higher than a 5 out of 10. I disagree. I think it's slightly above average. Simply because, and you know what? I think the biggest issue with this movie was the marketing. And I think if you went into this movie completely blind, it might be a little bit better. But I don't know how I would restructure this movie to be better. Because you know the whole movie 30 minutes before it ends, right? They don't really add anything. It's more so just watching it play out. You're kind of just waiting for the ending. And the last 10 minutes are pretty kind of bad. Like maybe the last 5 minutes. Like the movie ends like a couple times, and I hate when movies do that. And there's like an unnecessary flashback thing that they do towards the end of this film. So it's a mixed bag, but all of that being said, it's bad, but you'll be entertained throughout. You'll never be bored, I promise. You might watch it and you'll go, "Wow, that acting is really bad. That writing is really stupid." But you'll be entertained. You won't turn it off. And I think that's something that needs to be appreciated on its own. Right? I've said it a billion times, I'll say it again. The worst thing a bad movie can be is boring. This movie is not boring. So go check out Old. I'd recommend it. And that's it, ladies and gents. An interesting episode today, right? We've got movies that range from a 3 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. Oh, sorry. It's pretty interesting. Thank you for joining me. It looks like Ronnie and maybe Tejas stopped in for like 2 seconds and then dipped. I guess I wasn't entertaining enough, but yeah. Any final thoughts before I close this out? It looks like Carlos is going to be watching The Village. So I'm glad I got one person to watch a movie. Jimmy, you should go watch Dead Silence or maybe Brawl in Cell Block 99. I don't know. I think you should watch both. Tell me what you think. Maybe we could do a James Wan podcast. We got to get back in the booth for an episode. I know Carlos is going to watch The Visit. Jimmy's going to watch Dead Silence. If you haven't seen anything that I talked about today, skip Unfriended. Unfriended's the only loser of today's episode.
That's what Ronnie and Tekkas do.
That's true. They show up and then they don't, right? They pop in, they immediately get bored, they leave.
Hell yeah, dude. What we'll watch though?
What did he say? What will watch though? You missed a word there. What will watch though?
We.
What will we watch though? Well, great setup, Natalie. Next month,
Watch The Happening.
maybe we'll watch The Happening. I'm sure Natalie would like. Natalie likes M Night. She really does. She's got a soft spot for him. So I think. Oh, also M Night is in Old. In case I didn't mention that, he's in the movie. He's got like a little side character role. It's kind of cute. Next month, October Spooktacular starts Friday. I'm still gonna be doing these weekly episodes, and I want to structure it somehow. I don't know if I'm gonna maybe do like a tournament bracket and try to figure out what's the best movie. But I want to keep doing the weekly episodes where I'll kind of touch on each film, and then maybe I'll do like a big podcast episode for the Gauntlet. I don't know exactly how I'm going to structure the content, but I'm going to be watching minimum 31 movies next month, and I need to turn that into some form of content on this channel. So definitely stick around. If you like horror, stick around for that. Jimmy, let's talk. Let's schedule some films so we can watch them at the same time. Maybe Columbus Day weekend we can link up and watch something together. I think that would be spectacular. Okay? Thank you everyone for joining me. It was a pleasure. I can't wait to see you next week. We'll be touching on some horror. See you later, everybody. before I go, go ahead and follow me on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, leave a like. I'm gonna do all my plugging because no one's gonna make it to the end of this video anyway. Like, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, follow me on TikTok. I'm gonna try to pump out some content there, but just follow me on anything. It's usually just gonna be with Giros. I'll leave links in the description as well. Thank you so much. Bye bye.